All right, so as you said, I'm Fred Chasen, and I'm going to be focusing on creating annotations in reading systems. So I'm going to start with something you're probably all familiar with, which is a quick overview of how notes are created in current reading systems. So here's Kindle, and you'll notice that when I make a note, it's covered up the sentence I was just reading a second ago. And here's iBooks, which is much better, but it's because it's put it in the sidebar, but the actual area that I can edit is teeny. Can barely add anything at all. Okay. And here's Google Play's bookstore. You can see there's some weird anchoring issue going on here because there's two "you are old." And again, it's covering up most of the text that I was reading to put this note on. And finally, here's the Annotator homepage, which sort of shows what happens when you've got all of these people highlighting all at once. And the thing I hope you'll notice from this is that all of these reading systems use note composition as part of text selection. So you select the text and then you add a note. But to me, highlighting and note making are very separate annotation actions. So highlighting referring to that specific range of text that I'm selecting there, whereas a note can refer to the greater context around where it's anchored. Additionally, the text selection gesture is really overloaded. So there's copying, highlighting, sharing, and finally note making and all those other things in there. And this turns a very natural affordance of digital text, which is, swiping with a finger or selecting very accurately with a mouse, into something that's super complicated and modal and confusing. So I believe that reversing the note-making process, that is creating the note's content first and then anchoring it to the document, can solve lots of these issues, and I think it'll lead to better, longer, more in-depth annotations.
Excuse me, can you repeat that where you said creating content and then what?
Certainly. So creating the note's content first and then anchoring it to the document, which is what I'll be talking about for another 2 minutes, so shouldn't be a problem. So following that idea, here's some suggestions in annotations for reading systems, such as EPUB.js, which is a browser-based reading system I work on. The first suggestion is use robust note authoring. So offer a more fully featured creation tool than just a pop-up. This could be Markdown, or it could be links, images, tables, or just more space to compose in the creation of a note. And really, most importantly, allow the reader to navigate between parts of the text while they're composing their annotation. So again, you don't want to cover up what they were talking about with your pop-up editor. Then after composition, allow the readers to anchor and, almost more importantly, re-anchor where that annotation is. So the text could change. It might be an evolving document. They might, read 3 paragraphs later and realize that a part of it's addressed. And just on a browser-based note, I've found that caret position from point works really great for finding the text node or element and allows people to anchor to just about anything in a HTML page. Leave the text selection for highlighting. I think we could create notes with a different event, double-click or buttons in a toolbar, or we've started to see icons in the margin, which work really nicely. And display those notes in the marginalia, the sidebars, or some other method that lets you have content that might be many paragraphs long. It might have elements such as images or tables or threaded comments or references to other annotations in it. it's going to be longer, possibly, than the entire text, as someone mentioned earlier. And finally, define styles for notes in the CSS Print Style sheets. Hopefully, you can allow the readers to print out their annotations along with the main text. So to sum up, by worrying about annotations content first and the anchoring second, I think users can spend more time crafting their notes and create ones that are really worth reading.
I just wanted to say thank you for highlighting, the difference between different user interface experiences for different communities, because we actually had an annotation tool that worked exactly the way that you described for literary scholars, because they weren't comfortable with that kind of transient pop-up experience that they were getting. So yeah, definitely a great user story for.
Thank you. I mean, I should mention that this research came out of working with a professor writing a textbook who, had spent a long time on his endnotes and wanted the readers to be able to spend just as much time on their annotations.